Welcome back, everybody. It really does feel like these games are just cursed. Whatever team starts off with such a massive lead, it always just crumbles towards the end. I'm your host, Dylan, joined by TJ and Solo to try and break down what the heck just happened in that Game 2 to bring us to a Game 3. But it's got to start with the draft like it always does. Solo, I loved hearing your thoughts last game. Where did you feel about, or what did you feel about this draft?
It was better. I thought it definitely was winnable. More winnable for SLU. I mean, I'm not super in love with the Volley Ahri combo, but it's definitely, or Ahri mostly in general. But yeah, this is much more playable. And as we saw, like, they actually had opportunities to win the game, and they ended up doing that in kind of a weird way, but we got there.
I'm actually not a fan of the run back. I disagree. I think that they haven't had enough strong points with the Volibear Ahri to justify continuing to pick it, and I'd love to see them make an adaptation, at least on one of the two, to give them more options later in the game if they're not able to make early game plays.
Yeah, I definitely like both points that you guys brought up with that draft, and I feel like we're going to talk more about the draft when we get to the adaptations that both teams are going to make. But let's first just dive into the replays, because there's so much to get into with this game, and kind of a rerun of last game. There was this weird little Herald fight that happened early on, TJ. What was happening here?
Well, so like I just kind of alluded to, the Volibear Ahri is super strong in the mid game, around level 6 where you get your ultimates, and SLU doesn't necessarily have that, basically doesn't necessarily have that same power. So we see that SLU is actively making these plays where it's like, okay, we're going to be forcing on them. We've pulled our bot lane, where like their circles are able to impact the fight. But unfortunately for Bay State, they're trying to test something that's just illegal again. Like, it's 2 games in a row. So I'd love to see them, like, they got out of the early game with their champions that scale relatively well, and I just like to see them do nothing around the Herald or overcommit to it and sacrifice something on the side instead of continuing to run like a 3v3, 4v4. That's a loss.
Yeah, I mean, it really does feel like they kind of almost stumbled into that little bit of an early game lead, and it was very similar to game 1, where maybe they didn't make the proactive play to get there. But towards the mid game, it really did feel like things were going well for SLU, but then Bay State had a huge comeback, Solo.
Yeah, I thought they were in a really good spot. SLU was. They had the 1-3-1 going, and they were ended up overloading to mid lane to try and get the tower, but no one's showing on side lanes because they got Vex hiding in the wings here, and he has a great ulti onto Jhin, and then Jhin flashes into his team and kills everybody. Which is, yeah, I mean, obviously great play by Seranok, but this is what I was talking about, where I thought the comp was starting to come online, where they got the Ahri and the Camille in the side lanes, and then once they got down some of the towers, you know, they'll be able to just play for dragon stacking and the flanking, but they kind of made the error of thinking that they could just push mid S5 when they didn't realize that nobody was showing in the side lane. It's a big mistake there. Seemed like the game was over after that, but as we saw, there was a little bit left to play for.
Like Solo just said, I would have loved to have seen them like go for some more turrets or some jungle control instead of like flipping a mid fight where maybe we don't get the Doxa diff that we want. Instead, it's like flashing the team and all that. So I don't know. He did something. Like, it wasn't a bad play. It just didn't. It just stopped making sense when we see 5 people trying to auto attack turret.
Yeah.
That definitely can't hit tower there without anyone showing.
It's tough. It really is tough, but I mean, like you were saying, Sol, it really did feel like the game was over at that point, right? Because they get the Baron after that, they get another good team fight mid-win, but TJ, the game was not over.
Yeah, I mean, as we've seen in these collegiate games all across our series, they've had tons of throws where a team is like in a winning position and then they end up losing. This just looks like a solo queue fight to me. We have Seranok off on the side. Volibear obviously jumps in. He gets focused down. But SLU's able to take a win because Nautilus ult lands 2 people. The Nami instantly dies. Camille solo against Lucian gets Nautilus hooked. Like, it just kind of ended up in like a perfect storm for SLU. So congratulations for them there to play into that. And really big props for like everybody immediately running to end, flashing over walls, all that. And you just got to think that leaves a sour taste in Bay State's mouth to lose like that.
Yeah, they really underestimated how much Nocturne ulti was like carrying fights for them. I think if they would have waited for that, then even something like that, where it's a bit of a disaster all around, would have been fine, just because of how uncoordinated the red team would be. But I don't know, it's pretty insane to get 5-0 and just instantly lose the game. That's kind of a mental crusher for sure.
The craziest part is, if they maybe get 1 or 2 kills there. Sure, they lose the Baron, but they don't lose the game. The fact that it was just such a clean, decisive ace is really the nail in the coffin for them. But we've got a couple minutes, giving these players a little bit of a rest before we get into the final game of the series. Solo, I'm going to start with you. Adaptations for Game 3. What do you think these teams should do?
I think for SLU, kind of what TJ was talking about, I'm definitely not super bought on the Volley Ahri combo. I kind of want them to move off of Ahri more, just because I think Strompest is playing pretty well in these games, and putting it on something that's going to be more impactful, stronger champion, looks good. And Seranok's been really good on Vex, so kind of mixing up the matchup could look good. As far as base state goes, I'm not the biggest fan of Aatrox right now. I thought putting something a little bit more team fight oriented would look good. It doesn't really seem like he's going to be carrying out a top lane. I think top getting on, I can't stress enough how good Ornn would be in some of these comps. So getting on Ornn would be totally fine for base state. That would look good. And the only other thing is SLU picking winning bot lane might look good.
Yeah. TJ,
I
how do you
second
feel?
a lot of what he just said. I think that maybe the Nocturne could come off. I'd love to see DMK with something that maybe makes some more plays in the early game. Not to say the Nocturne hasn't looked good, but just as like a switch up. They don't necessarily need to switch up because they've had pretty dominating performances in these two, but it might be nice to reinvigorate after that loss there, where the mental's probably a little taxed from losing a game where you were just 5 seconds away from getting to LA. So maybe a small switch up in jungle. I think Seranok's looked really good on the Vex. Like, he's done his job. He's really done well. Again, have to second the Ornn. I'd love to see the Ornn, really. Like imagine base state picks Ornn. Like, it becomes so hard for SLU to play because a lot of the random kills and variance in the game has come from top lane, and Ornn just kind of shuts that down.
Yeah. Also, stop throwing around Herald. I mean, even with Baron, that whole top side is just stop throwing around that pit. Like, they're rushing the Herald fights a lot, and I think it's making it a lot harder for themselves. Just, it should feel good to do Herald if you're in a winning position. So they don't need to flip. They got winning bot lane in a lot of these times. So they just wait for their support to come first and keep it really simple.
All right, you heard it from our 2 analysts here. Trip to LA and top 8 on the line for these teams. The winner gets to go to Los Angeles. So exciting. SLU versus Bay State Game 3. Rebel, Travysty, take it away.
Game number 3. It couldn't get more tense. It couldn't be more right between these two teams. So, Rebel, we have a 1-1 score line, and this match is the deciding factor on who will go to LA.
It is a really crazy thing to think that, these are 2 programs that are incredibly young in their inception. It's only been a couple years now for Bay State where they've risen to some of the top levels in a number of other esports titles, and they're attempting to do the same for LoL here. And then you've also got SLU, who, again, is a second-year varsity program. This is a really incredible that they've been able to bring in the amount of talent that they did, and going to top 8 would be a really big accomplishment for either one of these two to prove themselves in the upper echelons for years to come when it comes to collegiate League of Legends.
It is going to be massive. And game 2, let's go ahead and talk about it. Elephant in the room. We got to see a matchup where both teams had control over the matchup in certain points in time. We got to have the storyline of Immortal Sage popping off inside the fight on the Lucian, and then SLU having a much more controlled early game and really being able to press some more advantages for themselves.
It is I love that our desk talked about the throws around the Rift Heralds, because it was very indicative of this game. The fact that we've had probably 3 or 4 game-changing, game control altering, plays or mistakes come out from both of these teams is really incredible. And so now it's a matter of game number 3, life on the line, going to top 8 qualification to be able to go to LA on the line. How much do you tighten up? How much do you tighten, right? Because these are players that have had experience before. To me, it's more about your youth than it is about your experience. Both teams have players that are relatively new to this one. Like Teesum is somebody that has been out and about, but obviously I haven't seen them at the top level of collegiate or inside of amateur or PG play in that regard. Also, and on the other side, you have like Swordblue, somebody that's homegrown, Bejjj that's been homegrown. Bay State's a little bit more rough in this area, and it's a question of, do you take a step back and try to fix a lot of those mistakes? How much do you pull off the throttle, and how much do you push down on the gas and say, we want to make the aggressive plays, we want to win the game to start with, we don't want to fall behind, we don't want to play the game the other team is trying to set up.
Bro, when I look at these two teams, all I gotta say is I hope neither one of them get off the gas pedal. I hope they actually hit it harder, because that is where they look their brightest, is when they are being the aggressors. When either one of these teams are the ones that say, this is how we're playing the game. They dictate the pace. And we're inside of draft, and our final game inside of this series, winner moves on to LA.
You definitely, like, the bans are likely to stay consistent. The only thing is, again, Bay State on red side now likely do not let Lucian over to the side of SLU. Just off the premise of, again, you do not want that to be a flex pick between Strompest and Doxa, but Doxa also looks incredibly comfortable on it, and you don't want another option for them to be able to attack with, because for the most part, you know, SLU's victories haven't really come from Doxa in the mid lane for the most part. It has been a lot more around Cozy, around Strompest. That's been the part of the map that they've been attacking for the most part to get their early game and to get into the skirmishing portion, the team fighting portion. Those are the members that they're relying on more often than not. So giving over the Lucian would be a massive mistake. Giving the ability of Doxa to win out the laning phase, you know, alongside Teesum would, I think, be something that they want to prevent to the best of their abilities. They do not want to let the Doxa diff slip into the bottom side of the map, given how well that Sophist and Swordblue have been doing when they've got control of the laning phase.
Doxa diff is terrifying when you see that across the rift from you.
Ooh.
Last ban, the vets taken away. Seranok has been killing it on the vets. Question is, do they still ban the Lucian? Do they ban the Lilia like they did last time?
No. I don't think they banned the Lilia. I think they banned the Lucian.
Yep.
Like I said, you don't want to set up Doxa for success. You don't want a flex pick like that going over to the B1 position that SLU can put in a number of different positions. I'm sure Cozy could even play it if he wanted to. The biggest thing of all of those is that Lilia, again, is a champion that has counter picks that DMK could try to exploit, as opposed to Lucian, which opens up so many different options. Ahri, first pick for SLU. Nothing shocking about that. Strompest wants to continue playing this, has done great things on it for 2 games in a row. And now with no Vex response base, they have to figure out a different mid laner that they're going to need to work with here.
Yeah, and Seranok does have a bit of a champion ocean, but it does come down to a bunch of different things. This is very surprising, actually, seeing the Volibear taking away from Matty.
Removing it from Matty, for one thing, having a very blanket type, you know, aggressive early game, more of a tanky, like, later game stage champion for DMK, not really having that big of a carry is interesting as well. I do wonder if they're willing to put it into Bejjj's hands if they have the right matchup, if that flexibility is there. I feel as though Bejjj would be the type of person to have the Volibear ready and raring to go for a top versus top matchup, especially in a situation like this where if Nocturne gets taken here, are they willing to blind it? Yeah, it's the question of whether they're willing to blind the Volibear top lane now, with Cozy being on the other side, to get Dragonminkim a better carry. And especially with Jhin in this game, where Sophist Sage is playing the Jhin, it's not as much of the carry that we've seen from the first 2 games, so maybe the possibility is there that they are baiting for this.
Yeah, they could be exuding a fantastic bait. The Nautilus as well doesn't give up too much information, and now you have a Nautilus into a Jhin. Very good for SLU. Bay State, your response. Let's see it.
Probably just ends up being the Leona, like we saw from Swordblue in a previous game. If not, I mean, there's also enchanters that I think that have gone completely under the radar that Swordblue could definitely grab, because I've seen him play them before, and he's a very proficient enchanter player. But Leona seems like the obvious choice when it comes to this series and what they've been interacting with on both bot lanes. It's a lot of long-range engage to work with the Jhin and the Leona combination, so they have ways of attacking SLU if they decide not to go diving, even though they've got the Nocturne and the Ahri. They happen to cluster together and get stuck in a little bit of a choke point or something along those lines, there's punishment to come through from the side of Bay State, putting faith here. But again, I'm looking for who their true carry is, because right now we're waiting on Seranok's pick, and we're kind of waiting on whether DMK or Bejjj end up taking you know, their solo laner as well. So it's just Bay State that's going to be banning out bot laners, making sure there's nothing comfortable for Doxa to be able to bring into their team, and then fishing out what counter pick they're going to be able to work with on that R5.
Do you just take Seranok's champion here though after this ban phase is done?
Absolutely.
Do you just grab a mid laner and just say, hey, we want this mystery to stay exactly as it is, a mystery? Because like you were talking about, I see this in the series at the very beginning. DMK doesn't seem like the person that would be piloting the Volibear as much as Bejjj. Bejjj seems like he would fit into that mold very well for them. So I'm keeping my eyes peeled as we do see more and more AD carries banned away. Yet again, Doxa's pool is getting pinched.
Interesting. I wonder if they could go to an AD top laner alongside the Nocturne. And again, we talked about the potential mage flex, as Dox is typically a mid laner, but now is going to end up in the bottom side of the map. As you can see, they're banning away top lane carries, making sure Bejjj not going to be on something super comfortable to ensure that he can outright carry a game. And like you had said, I think this has got to be the mid lane pick coming in from Bejjj State. I wonder if something like the Syndra's on the board, or the Orianna's on the board, is something just a little bit more stock standard for Bejjj State to be able to take. That's a much better one. I like that they finally bust out the counter pick, which is actually, it was the Strompest special a couple of months ago when he first started busting it out as opposed to anybody else. Really incredible to see that Seranok's got it in his pool as well to counteract the Ahri pick that Strompest has been rocking all day.
Yes, yes indeed. But this is a champion that was banned inside of game number 1. The Graves is locked and loaded. This is a champion that Cozy has found themselves feeling right at home on. And Jinx left open is easy pickups for Doxa.
So this does at least prevent... like, there's damage to be thrown in from a distance to be able to help support the Nocturne, and I think Ahri can help with that as well. But there's no true dive buddy alongside the Nocturne, so you do have to be careful with Matty. That ability is at least something to consider. And now, having seen everything, again, we had postulated maybe the Volibear going top lane might still be the case, because again, the Wukong's been flexed a little bit, but more likely the Bejjj is going to grab that one for himself, and they're going to put a bunch of faith in the control that this Wukong is going to be able to have for the rest of the team.
Yep, so it is just going to be DMK piloting Volibear and looking to be the aggressor across the map. There's a lot of team fighting potential, man. Look at the amount of CC that actually comes up from this Bejjj State squad. They have a lot of AoE that they are able to apply inside these fights.
It's very unfortunate because this feels like a composition for Bejjj State where they've got like they've got not only the Wukong to be able to sit on top of members, the Leona to be able to sit on top of members, as well as like the Veigar cage, where you set up something that like does have a bunch of very high range to work with into St. Louis. That if you start encroaching with like the dive composition, you can deny them a lot of that access. You can prevent Ahri and Nocturne from getting on top of your true carry threat, which feels like it's almost like you need a mortar in the background where like you've got a bunker around it. And so the Xerath would have been super cool to see, but again, because of just how well that this Ahri's been played all day by Strompest, they can't possibly go to that, even though I would have loved to see it in a composition like this. As now SLU appears to have taken up the mantle that really Bejjj State's been working with all day, not only having the Nocturne, but also having it alongside the Ahri for a bit of dive threat into the backline. And outside of that, again, the Jinx as well was something the most comfortable ADC, I think, for Doxa outside the Lucian for the majority of the split. Finally getting their hands on that one to be able to team fight with is another really big deal here.
And your carries are immobile from the same side of Bejjj State too. So this Nautilus, if Nautilus is able to get his hands onto somebody, if he's able to get that anchor toss onto somebody, the depth charge that can follow up into the backline, these immobile carries can be picked up because you do have SLU who have multiple dashes. You have Graves who loves to be able to reposition himself inside of a fight. You have this Ahri who you've seen, like you alluded to, Strompest has been so clean on the champion, and we all know what an Ahri can do when they have the space bot for them. They can dash around inside the team fights, land those charms, and land out that damage. So it could be a very interesting storm that Bejjj State would have to weather because the CC is there, and if they get caught out of position, they don't have a get out of jail free card unless they're able to land that big AoE CC, that baby rage cage, that event horizon that the Veigar can place, or if they're able to use their abilities defensively.
To me, actually, it feels like from Bejjj State's side, they've got ways to try to deny the full-on engage from SLU. It's not easy, but they have ways to be able to do it. And the big thing is, again, when it comes to carry threats, like Veigar can do some of it, you've got Jhin that can do some of it. Person I'm looking at to do the majority of carrying in a series like this right here is Bejjj. Bejjj feels like he is set up incredibly on this Wukong, who's been this insanely influential champion in a number of games in round of 32 and round of 16 here in Collegiate, to go diving, to find Doxa, to find Cozy in the backline, and to prevent them from providing supplemental damage into the back.
Here we go. Game number 3, the deciding game between these two teams. Such a highly anticipated matchup throughout the weekend, living up to every inch of the hype between these two.
And now again, we get our final kind of litmus test for both of these teams before walking into this series, before walking into everything here between these two. State versus SLU. We knew these two teams. Once again, I said it a lot yesterday. A lot of our teams feel like these are like round of 8, even like round of 4 matchups that we're getting in the round of 16 because of the depth and the amount of talent that is held by so many teams in collegiate just this season. And so, because of that, we're getting very interesting stuff to come to. We're getting quite a few things that are developing on both sides of this one. Who is going to be able to clutch up in the time of need for both of these squads? We'll get an answer to that right after a little bit of respite. It looks like there was a pause, and we'll get back into the game really quickly here.
Yeah, I want to piggyback off your comment, though, because I do want to just talk very swiftly about the fact that this is probably the most stacked season of Collegiate League of Legends there ever has been. There's so much talent inside this team. We've seen some amateur players that have had some stellar moments that have moved inside of the scene. We've seen more college programs building teams, making sure to put out these scholarships. These student clubs have been leveling up and being able to pop off inside of it, as we got to see yesterday. I mean, it's just such a stat lineup in just all around. And you can tell that all these college teams, this is the first time in 3 years that they have an event in LA to be able to fly out to. And you can tell that every single one of these collegiate squads, they're pushing for it. They want it. They want it so bad. It's been 3 years.
Being able to play on the big stage, I think, is a dream for a lot of these players, right? Being able to play out of the LCS studio is something that every one of them wants for a number of different reasons. You think about on an individual level how much this means to players being able to play in a position that these professionals they've been watching and emulating and even playing against in a lot of circumstances, given their talent, have been playing at for so many years now. You're talking about teams and coaches being able to develop these players to the best of their abilities, being able to prove that like collegiate has some very good talent, and they're able to develop players into the next level with the number of players we've seen arise from collegiate into academy and into LCS, and even full organizations. I want to talk a little bit about once again, Bejjj State is like they've been recruiting players from around the world, giving opportunities away to professionals, across all walks of life, to be able to put them into situations where like it's not even just League of Legends, it's like all esports, Rocket League, you have things like Overwatch, and League of Legends is an extension of that. And then you have programs like SLU who are kind of in their infancy, being able to develop their esports organization themselves. And when you have this kind of competitiveness, when you have this kind of event, to be able to show off these players in such an incredible light, show them off the way that like you really want to be able to see on a national stage, how much that garners in attention from your whole organization is really just astonishing for how much kind of you can get out of your players, how much you can get in motivation to be able to accomplish these really big goals that these organizations have.
100% agreed. And I like the point that you talked about SLU being in its infancy, Bejjj State being a newer college that has stepped into the esports scene when it comes down to their collegiate programs. These are two very fresh college squads that have came in here, both with their own fair amount of hype going into the beginning of the collegiate season. And now here we are between the two of them that are very much so the aggressors. They are the ones that do not hide. They don't play slow. They like to get in your face, and they like to be decisive with their advantages. They like to crush the competition. And we have seen just back and forth between the two of them. I'm just excited to see what these two teams are going to bring out inside of this game number 3, because game number 1, game number 2, they've given us so much shown from them. What's left in the tank in the final game of the series?
I really like also that, like, on one hand, you have Bejjj State, whose expectations were kind of, they were a little undisclosed, a little undeveloped, just because of how much we didn't see from them in the previous round of 32. We started to see their roster interact with some of the better teams, and over time, their expectations have grown. I think that have culminated in this moment where like they're at a very, very big point where I feel as though like top 8 should be the goal for them. Top 8 should be where they're at. Whereas SLU, they came out of the gate swinging, and it was over time that they had to like keep themselves in the conversation, right? Like when they went and they got second at Harrisburg, things were at their all-time high, and then slowly over time, things kind of dismantled a little bit. They changed coaching staffs. They had new players kind of enter the fold. Getting 5th in the Northern Conference was something that I think was unexpected for them, or my apologies, 6th. Losing to Michigan in that Northern Conference, 5th, 6th match as well was not expected of them. And so being here and being able to show against some of the other top teams, against teams like Bay State, it proves the point that was made way long ago about SLU, which is that they have the ability to beat anybody. They are one of the best in the collegiate space, as both these teams compete now back into game number 3, my apologies, as the decider match for who gets to go to quarterfinals.
Rebel, if you told me this was game number 1, I wouldn't argue with you. I'm down to see a whole nother series between these two. Unfortunately, it is game number 3, like you're talking about, and only one of these teams can move on, and that's the Dredge line, the aggressive move. A Zenith Blade traded. They go on to Doxa. There is the Ignite ticking. Sage trying to get into range, trying to get that 4th shot ready. Got it locked and loaded, but now they're out of range.
Goodness gracious, with Summoner Spells burnt on both sides, at least the Ignite is available for Teesum to prevent them from getting anything else. DMK, also a quick level 3, wants to make an impact. Hasn't ever really looked in the mid lane. Oh, they got the cage around Strompest.
Yeah, he can't escape without burning the flash. Strompest feeling the pressure as the flash has been blown. As here we go, another Zenith Blade, but a nice catch out onto Swordblue stops him from going all the way to Doxa.
The thing is about a couple of things. First off, already more impact felt. Ooh, Teesum's wrapping around. He doesn't put down a ward, I don't believe. He faked it. DMK was there, though. He knew he didn't actually fake the ward.
He was there all along. Doxa, he doesn't have summoners. He's going to get caught out of position. He's rooted. First blood going over to DMK. What a fantastic bit of pathing coming out on the volley.
I don't think that Teesum had a ward available, and because of that, he can't see that DMK is on top of the Tri-Brush. They don't get a chance. Instead, they force Doxa to walk up into the Tri-Brush. They say, okay, chances are low, but we just got to get vision, make sure DMK didn't path from mid right into bottom side, right into our lane. But that's exactly what he did, and he finds the first blood here for Bay State's bottom lane. Incredible stuff.
Yeah, and ladies and gents, we know the scoreboard, it has a little bit of funky, it has a little bit of a bug. It should get fixed here very shortly. As you can see, trade still continuing across the map here. Bejjj not taking the better end of that one. Monkey does not beat Shotgun.
This was the champion that I think Cozy played the most when he was playing on amateur teams and everything like that. So it's kind of incredible to see him be able to sandbag a lane like this. And this usually ends up being a more aggressive build where you go for things like the Eclipse to do more damage to the laning phase, since all that sustained type nerfs had really taken effect. You could still go Gordrinker. I've still seen a little bit of Gordrinker, especially with this many melee champions around, with like the Volibear and Bejjj wanting to test your position. But that's not necessarily 100% what's going to happen here. So early on, wanting to take advantage of the range that you got over top of Bejjj, but as you had seen from that graphic in the bottom left corner just a second ago, Bejjj, a good Wukong player. The impact this champion has had over the course of the tournament has been indicative of very good things of how powerful that this champion can be in the right hands. Bejjj wanting to be this diver, wanting to be this counterplay to this Nocturne Ahri combination and put pressure into the backline, make sure Doxa can't get comfortable, make sure that you can't transition into a full team fight.
I really like this from Swordblue. Roaming around, Teesum, we highlighted the fact that they were roaming around inside of the last game on that Nautilus. This time, now Swordblue on the Leona is able to match the roams that are coming from Nautilus, and this is what we've grown to see from Swordblue. We've seen Swordblue more traditionally on the Nautilus pick itself, but on this Leona, moving around the map to assist, to give advantages, and to pair together with DMK effectively to make sure DMK can get those advantages, those early leads. As we do see DMK get spotted out by Matty.
And you see, like, Matty has just been farming up as fast as possible, too. A couple of games now where, like, the Volibears wanted to make early effects to this entire laning phase. And because of that, it means that, like, the Nocturne gets, like, earlier farm advantage over the Volibear. The Volibear falls a little behind in terms of gold and experience. And the Nocturne just wants to push for the level 6. And it's a question of where do you actually go to use this level 6 as a Nocturne? I don't think you have great responses to that question. Seranok seems good, but he's in the mid lane where there's a lot less space to work with and has the cage that burns your like immediate spell shield on the way in. And so if you're not full health, or if you don't just get a one tap basically on a Seranok, he can always turn with his ultimate to try to execute you if he gets underneath the tower.
Cyclone looking for it. Cozy, nice collateral damage. Matty is here though to be able to assist. Will be the 1v1. No, Cozy comes out on top. It was the end of the line for Bejjj.
I was about to say, this is an incredibly dangerous decision from Bejjj, because not only are you playing into the Graves, who has like the short range, he's got the Iron Spike Whip to be able to throw damage in, but the thing is, if you burn the Cyclone and you don't get the kill, immediately a gank could come through, because this was the defensive mechanic from the Nocturne, is just making sure you can knock him up once he gets through, being able to use your W to get out of a gank. But getting that aggressive, losing your life, Bejjj giving too much over to Cozy to start off this laning phase with very little effect. Was one auto away, but a phenomenal slide auto cancel coming in from Cozy, expressing the skill on this champion, being able to use that to get out of range of the Wukong and drop the last auto necessary to kill him. Really impressive stuff from him. Also, of course, that means the Nocturne's on top side, so it does net the dragon to base state, the third first dragon to the game here for this team.
First, they were able to actually spot Matty there. I'm not sure if they know. Xenoblade comes in. Swordblue looking to aggress. Gets caught in the trap, and that's the paranoia. Going straight onto Swordblue. They got the numbers advantage, but can they assert them? The root connects. They have the Rage Cage. Teesum has to flash out. Matty is fighting Sage all on his lonesome. The grenade is there. The mine slows him down, and Matty does eventually fall to Seranok as Bejjj State counter to play bot lane.
And it's very nice combination of play to come out here, because Bejjj State get aggressed against, and the counterplay is here from DMK, where he goes for a counter gank. Seranok is first on the roam as well with the Predator boots, getting him down river as a couple of kind of notes. But there's a few other like little intricacies that I want to point out. Again, first off, DMK is already on his way down to make this counter. I think they saw him in the mid brush unless he came out of his own jungle. They at minimum saw the Veigar heading down and knew this play needed to be operated on. But the big thing is, notice, Aftershock, W. Usually, if you're running Glacial, you get one tapped by Matty, right? Like, he can't get out of that situation, or he gets out of that situation a lot faster. But because he needed to step forward for 2-3 more auto attacks to kill the Leona, it put him in a bad place. He had no way to get out of this situation. So everybody else pulls weight, just ends up being the 1-for-1, the kill onto Seranok versus the kill onto the Nocturne. You're going to take that, I think, if you're Bejjj State, because you're going to be able to get net quite a bit more. You're waiting to scale up in a game like this anyhow, so you're not really that concerned. Instead, just giving a little bit over to your stud mid laner.
I do really like the eye that Teesum has, though, to re-engage inside of fights. We saw a possible hook that could have made things go dreadfully south for Bejjj State. Seranok is okay, though, and the play comes out with a Herald for the son of St. Louis. So SLU going to be happy they were actually able to get that without having a contention. We've talked about it quite a bit of time. There's been some scuffles around Rift Herald throughout this series. I think that's the first time we've seen a Herald go down completely uncontested.
And it's a situation where, like, again, Bejjj State doesn't want to flip. They don't want to make any really overly aggressive moves to give control over to SLU. They are comfortable with the Veigar and the Wukong waiting until the later stages of the game to really start playing things out, or at least into the middle of the game, where the two of them combine for a very fearsome team fighting combination and a lot of zone control to work with. And so, to me, this is the opening that SLU has. Not only the Rift Herald, but also to be able to continue pushing with this Nocturne in the early game with all this damage in the side lanes. You got a Jinx, you got an Ahri, you got a Graves to gank for. And you're able to set up any of them that you want with this Rift Herald or with future ganks in the meantime to be able to push past Bejjj State's attempt at controlling a lot of fights, being able to utilize the cage and whatnot to kind of control space and to be able to deny you access into some of the dive in the backline. You can get one of your major damage dealers ahead. It helps the Nocturne not have to do all this much. He doesn't have to be this like beeline to backline, kill somebody immediately. Instead, he can rely on everybody else kind of working their way up into a fight and doing the damage a bit for him. Swordblue and Sophist did see Matty on his way in with those wards. He's got the Rift Herald. He wants to push Doxa into a good place. This makes sense. You want your Jinx to be incredibly strong. There's
here we go. Paranoia has been popped, and that is going to be the sign for Swordblue to drop. And now they're going to turn around on the Sage. Depth Charge wasn't used yet on the Leona, but DMK is here to be the Cavalry Strompest, looking for the flank, but gets caught in the cage. Super Mega Death Rocket catches its prey, and St. Louis come out huge in the fight in the bot lane.
Despite an incredible attempt at yet another counter gank into the bottom side of the map, the aggression just isn't there. It was a couple of things that really disrupted, I think, all of the counterpunch that came through from the side of Bejjj State. But the fact that St. Louis is able to force their hand on Vision into bottom side, no matter the circumstance. Right here, I think they allow the engagement to come through because they know the counter is coming out. They know the Volibear is going to be on the way. They know the Veigar is going to be on the way. And that's what's really important to them. DMK jumps in front, and there's 3 low members. I almost wish that DMK were like jumping in here with the support of the ultimate, but they know the Ahri is on the way as well. The W use locked him into his animation and prevented him from getting away as the other two tried to punish Strompest for coming around the edge, but he's able to flash as well as Spirit Rush to get out of dodge before any punishment can come through, as SLU finally are the ones really making the highly aggressive plays, using this Nocturne to aggress against the bottom side of the map and get themselves further ahead.
Such a phenomenal job from them, and they're showing the value of this Nocturne. It's been such a valued pick inside of the series as a whole, piloted by either team, and we're seeing just why here. Second dragon is spawning, is an ocean dragon, and you can see St. Louis have complete control over this pit. They are on some vision. They say will let it pass.
They will. Second dragon of the game, now going to the side of SLU. This is the second game in a row where they've been able to take something like that. I think their second dragon of the series as well, but canceling out Bay State's ability to scale up with that. Their bottom lane steps forward.
Oh, they're caught out of position yet again. The solar flare is there, but it is not going to be able to save them. The Rockets are free firing depth charge onto Seranok, but look at this. Strompest is coming in from the river, doesn't hit the charm onto anybody.
Oh.
The Baby Rage cage is there to give a little bit of CC, but the Rockets are there, and come on, shoot faster. Doxa ADC is in full effect. That's a triple kill for the Jinx.
And Bay State has been making all of these attempted counter plays to what SLU is setting up. They're trying to move everybody into the fight immediately afterwards, and they think they can stall long enough to make it work. But in every fight now, one after the other, things have gotten progressively worse to now St. Louis getting 5 kills into Doxa and into the Jinx off the back of this dragon play. Their bot lane is stepping way too far up, and I'm like, okay, what's happening? They're trying to collapse. They're trying to counter, but they lose Sophist Sage immediately. They get caught up on the trap line, and there's reinforcement from Strompest coming in on the back of this. You're not feeling good about this. After this right here, once this play comes through, once the cage goes down, you have to be out of this play entirely. The excited feels really bad as well, because that gave the move speed and the flash advantage over to the Jinx to be able to catch up to Seranok. That play, again, just so much on the front foot for their bot lane to step up like that just for a bait and an attempted punish. Bay State wasn't playing like this through both of the first 2 games. This feels so strange for them.
It feels so strange indeed, but you know what? Dots is feeling great right now. Look at that, highest gold inside the game. Hasn't been having the greatest time against Sage throughout the series, but now 5-1-2 on the Jinx. And I'll be honest, man, if you're looking at a condition for your team to be able to come out ahead, this is a very viable one at that, and those Rockets are putting in work.
There's still scaling options for Bay State. There's still Wukong for Bay State as well. But the problem is this early game has gone just about as well as SLU could have ever asked for, taking this 3K advantage, getting your Jinx ahead. And again, the important part of this is that if you've got a bunch of dive in St. Louis, right? If you put the Graves and you put specifically the Nocturne and the Ahri into the backline, you're able to do, okay, this is...
He's going for the 1v1. He wanted it. Flash for flash blown, though. So, Bejjj called out the Graves on the bot, and it's going to be successful doing that. Matty is yet again bot side. Paranoia is available. They are waiting to pull the trigger. Is spotted on a ward, so they are able to smell this one out.
They are. Let's see, because right now you actually have 3 members and a 4th collapsing towards the bottom side as well, because again, it's another counterplay.
Caught out of position. Nice bit of CC, and they get rid of the Jhin. She is shut down, and now it is the Predator Veigar stumbling his way down to the bot lane. It's the curtain call coming in, laying in some shots. Teesum is going to barely be able to get out of range for the 4th one, but an excellent capture for Bay State to be able to secure.
And a lot faster in the rotation this time is Bay State to be able to deny this. The problem is, again, this topside matchup, Bejjj had burnt the flash and the ultimate and had nothing left against the Graves, who's got this Gourd Drinker. You can't jump in on top of him when he's got that, because he'll out-damage and out-heal you from that range. So Bejjj got pushed out of top lane in exchange for this bottom side play that came through, as they were much faster to be able to respond to the dive potential that SLU was trying to set up. And being able to jump onto Doxa to get the shutdown gold, even if it is into Swordblue's pocket, is something. Now, again, you don't really salvage anything across the map. You are still bleeding so much over to Cozy on this Graves pick. But at minimum, you don't lose anything on the bottom side. You don't further the gold into the Jinx. But it feels like a pittance that Bay State gets back in exchange for what just happened topside.
This is back and forth as we expect. A nice answer from Bay State, but like you were talking about, SLU. How do you answer Cozy? And now, look at this. SLU doing a great job for themselves. They're getting themselves a second uncontested Herald here. And this is going to be great use for them to accelerate the pace of the game, because as we were talking about, neither one of these teams want to be in the passenger seat. They want to be driving this crazy ride. They want to be able to dictate the pace of the game and where the fights take place.
I find it even more insane because if you're looking at this, I just want to make a quick note on itemization. It's going to be a Frozen Heart coming in from Cozy in the top side, and it's because he doesn't care about leaving, right? In a team fight, the Graves feels like it has no purpose except for kind of sliding around and trying to fit itself into the position where like it can prevent DMK or Bejjj from jumping past or Swordblue, because he could be like this melee deterrent to jumping onto Jinx, right? The alternative is you keep him in a side lane against the Wukong all game, and he has a sizable enough advantage alongside the Frozen Heart that at no point can Bejjj jump.
Catch. Sage getting caught out of position, and that is Cozy getting the kill after they catch him out. They still have more. Strompest is over here onto the side. The cage has been used. Seranok taking a bit of poke. Wukong over the wall. Charm doesn't hit as the charge comes through from Herald, dropping the tower into a critical state of HP. Cozy now trapped inside of the cage. Bejjj looking to continue the scuffle forward, a desperate defense of this mid tower. They're going to have to give it up.
And with that, I mean, they're going to lose the mid tower, they're going to lose the dragon, they kind of lose everything all at once. Bejjj collapses in one fell swoop off the back of the pick onto Sophist Sage. And part of this is like, Sophist Sage shouldn't be getting picked like that. They have 4 people there for the amount of defense. But the thing was, they were trying to set up in the river. They don't find themselves to be down so much gold that they can't find a team fight. This is the first time that Bejjj was going to be acting, in tandem with the rest of the team to interact with what SLU was bringing to the rest of the table. The problem is it's just too late, right? Like they lose the mid lane, the bottom laner, and then all of this goes to waste because you're down a whole member, you're down your ADC as well, and you don't really have that much gold in the rest of your team to be able to accomplish anything. So SLU, once again, using the Rift Herald, I think the intention was to try to set up for the Dragon, but if they're going to bleed out a member and they're going to bleed out mid tower, they're going to take it. They're going to punish you. This team knows how to take advantage of those mistakes that Bejjj is making right now.
They are continuing to do this, and the target set on Sage, man, 0-3. This is not what we've seen from Sage throughout this event. We were seeing little fun facts popping up over onto the side. Sage has died more inside this one game than any time inside of the event, and that just shows where SLU has been setting their target. Yet again, Matty over here on the hunt, on the prowl, has been a supporting member of this bot lane to make sure that they're able to enable this Jinx, to get them excited, to get this itemization already sitting on 2 full completed items, Rebel.
It's a situation where Doxa feels like he's prepared to carry a fight when everything goes forward. If he can follow up with an ultimate, if he can get excited, they don't have to worry. Seranok, dodge the W. Oh, almost finds him with that one. Fortunately, Doxa is a mid laner, so he has interactions with Seranok. He's able to dodge out. That's
yeah, well, how about dodging this? You can't dodge a depth charge. He will get dropped off the back of the charm, but here we go. The retaliation coming in. DMK cuts off your escape path. It is curtains for you. Strompest drops. Everybody getting dropped. And off of the pick of one member, Bejjj will respond full vengeance in their hearts.
Again, the counterplay coming out from Bejjj. Every time St. Louis has been trying to set up something aggressive to the bottom side, Bejjj has at least had a response. It doesn't always work out, but in some circumstances, it has. In this case, the Veigar goes down, but look how deep they have to go to do it, right? 4 members underneath of the mid tower get trapped inside of the cage, and that means this response can come out. That means the Wukong gets this amazing TP while the lights are shut out. Means DMK can get this incredible wraparound, and both of them are able to get into the backline effectively. 2 kills going to Leona, my 1 complaint in this system, but this is how the team fight should be playing out. Bejjj getting around, wrapped around into the damage of the rest of the team, and everybody else working their way from front to back to try to push through. Right there, a great counterplay from Bejjj. Finally works out for them. It's them a little bit of reprieve in this game, because up till this point, it's been really rough for them. Closing the gold gap to only about 2K. At least something to talk about. There's still a lot of problems for them, but at least they had some kind of actual positive play go in their direction.
Bejjj launching their anti-bullying campaign right now, telling them to get off Seranok is great to see, as they are able to capitalize on it. Like you said, able to find these picks is great, and it does even drive home a concern that SLU is going to have to deal with. There's a lot of CC, there's a lot of AoE CC, there's a lot of teamfight presence that is actually available, and yes, you can get one, but how much do you have to use to get that one, and is it enough for you to deal with the consequences that come after?
Not to mention, there is a unreal amount of single target damage. So not only is it this AoE CC and a lot of control that you've got in terms of space from Bay State when the dive isn't coming through from St. Louis, but one member overstepping, getting caught out by like a Jhin auto attack, a final auto attack execute with a Veigar ultimate, somebody is erased immediately, right? Like that's just a gone member from the team that is not able to be responded to. Not to mention, there's not a lot of magic resist. Mr. Travis. There's not a lot of magic resist on this team. And this Veigar is still scaling, still pulling stacks, still trying to get into the absolute late game monster territory where you could try to solo carry a team fight. Seranok, the member that they're putting their faith into. Originally, I thought Bejjj was going to be that person. He still has capabilities of being able to take this to late game, being able to use this Wukong effectively in team fights, especially since, of course, Cozy has built very much for the defense against the Wukong as a dive.
Paranoia has been used, but the cage used defensively to try and zone off the rest of the team. They're trying to get him. They get them. Nocturne drops. Doxa trying to use the Gale Force as defensively as possible. And look at how tragic the fight turns out. SLU cannot compete against the team fight presence that comes out. They are finding 4 members for the side of St. Louis, dropping. Bay State are all of a sudden in control.
I said it before the series, the thing we needed to remove from this was flopping the game back and forth. We saw mistakes come out from both teams that changed the pacing of the game, changed control of the game, and once again, SLU has committed this act of atrocity. They go for an aggressive dive. They try to make a quick pick onto Sophist, who burns both his summoners and his Gale Force to get off the back. And what does it cost them? It cost them a Baron buff. It cost them a lost team fight. They have no more gold advantage. Sophist, I feel like he's been bait this entire game. They're like, let's ruin his KDA. And every single time they've been able to punish him. This is the first time it didn't come through. Instead, they lose Matty, who wasn't able to survive. The backline got cut off because of Seranok at first, and then all the rest of these bulky members get in their face. And the only person challenging the backline was Cozy, but he's on Frozen Heart, right? He's not super heavy damage Graves. He's not Eclipse Graves. If he's got damage, maybe he one-taps the Jhin, maybe he one-taps Seranok, and this fight looks a little bit different, but he doesn't, because he doesn't have that kind of damage. So now, Baron buff, gold advantage, 2 dragons apiece. Bay State's right back in the driver's seat of a game like this with all this pressure they've got. And consider that they're still scaling. Consider the Wukong's still an amazing team fighter. Seranok is still pulling AP to be able to one-shot members of this team. You are terrified a little bit if you're SLU now that you've given up this kind of breathing room for Bay State to take back the game.
Bro, I have seen so many times where a Jinx triple kill can be a nail in the coffin. Bay State have not let that be such. They are continuing now. They are pressing on some aggression. They have Baron buff, and there are towers. They haven't knocked down a single tower, so there's all sorts of freestanding gold available for them to take if they're able to press the advantage on any of these lanes. But they've only got this Baron buff for another minute and a half.
They do. Like, the Baron buff isn't going to be able to net them this massive advantage. They aren't going to be able to push out. SLU still has an absurd amount of control in a game like this, despite now being down gold and throwing a fight. But the problem is, again, in these pure 5-on-5s, you have to find ways to be able to let Doxa have access to the backline. You need to set up a structure for how this dive is going to work out. Where is Ahri going to go? Where is Cozy going to go? Where is Matty going to go? And where is Doxa allowed to position himself? Where is he not going to get jumped on by Bejjj, by DMK on these picks, by Swordblue even to CC him, so that the damage can actually hit these big AoE targets the way that you want the Jinx to operate? Because if you don't get the pick onto Sophist stage, at least he's driven out of the fight. At least the Jinx can step up and start doing the DPS that you need her to inside of a fight like this. But if her positioning is getting challenged and you aren't doing the same, if you aren't reciprocating the amount of damage that's done to your backline in kind, it means that St. Louis just has no bearing, right? The Nocturne isn't suddenly killing a bunch of carries on the backline, and your Ahri is going to have to kind of like pick up that slack. But this game isn't the best that we've seen of the series from Strompest so far on the Ahri. And it means their team fight doesn't look as strong as it has in the past.
Does not indeed. And check this out. The Predator has been used by Seranok. They want this tower to down bad for it. Graves is not around in the vicinity to contest, and they finally get one tower with the Baron, give them a little bit more gold for themselves as they crack open their first tower of the game, looking to make it number 2 as they shift over to the top side of the map.
Cozy's just focusing on side laning. Again, wanting this Graves to be incredibly powerful, wanting himself to be somebody that's unresponsible to in a side lane. This has been consistent most of the series. But again, he needs to still contribute in teamfights. You saw in that last one, they don't have the ability to really rely on just the pure 4-man dive squad to do all this much. Even when he got access to the backline, he wasn't able to accomplish that much. So now he wants resources. Now he wants gold. Now he wants to buy a Black Cleaver. He wants more AD to work with so that you can put all this damage into the backline when the time comes. No more Frozen Heart nonsense. I know it helps in the side lane against the Wukong, but now you need some damage if you're going to go diving. And if you're not going to go diving, you live forever. Stand on top of the Jinx. Be somebody that could be a bulldozer and a bodyguard to make sure that the Jinx isn't going to get dove by, again, anybody on the side of base that can perform that.
Yeah, I agree with you, man. Because it's also just like, I believe inside the draft we talked about wanting to see the dive buddy coming out from Nocturne at the very beginning of the time, and it's almost like you just use the paranoia just to cut off vision. You use it for the utility of it, right? To be like, all right, now you don't have information. We're cutting off your vision. Let's see how we pick up this fight. Let's see if we can, camouflage where the Jinx is, because I do think the Jinx is a very valued member, sitting on 3 items right now.
Okay.
Here we go. Hook connects, depth charge as well. They're not going to be able to drop DMK, but they will burn the ultimate ability. Seranok in the wings, looking to reinforce any effort from the team. A tower solo taken by Strompest in the top lane.
It's interesting because the team is playing into Strompest being able to take this top inner tower, which is gold into the Ahri, again, one of these divers to put pressure in alongside the Nocturne. And the exchange is that Bejjj who's again the counter diver here for Bay State, is getting gold in for himself on this Wukong to be able to utilize to put damage into the opposing backline, right? The Rabadon's not quite done for Strompest. I honestly think maybe the Darksteel is a little bit optimistic, and if that's like the difference between you finishing the Rabadons and not, you should just sell it and get it out of your inventory, because like you could clean up a fight, sure, you can get 3 or 4 kills, but honestly, like I'm not that concerned about the Magi stacking. You just got to be powerful right now, and that's not what the Darksteel does. The difference, of course, now is like, gold being traded other sides of the map. The Baron setup is there for SLU, and they're going to play to that side of the map very heavily once again, as they had set it up for Strompest. They left some residual vision. They're pushing back in with 4 members. They want to control this side because I'm assuming their belief is that they have the best team fight setup around the Baron when they're moving into it. In fact, actually, they're full moving into top side in the attempted aggression. It's the top inhibitor tower. That feels a little misguided. They can leave EMK on the bottom side of the map, and it's just a 4v4. Cozy's not going to get much work done on the mid lane tower. It's just the defense. They're not even going to drop it below a third, so it's not even going to stay there. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, Cozy is pushing the mid tower while this is all happening, so it's an easy objective trade. They're trying to catch Bay State off tempo, but instead they're the ones that are caught off pace here. Strompest is still pushing top lane, while there is a little bit of a dance going on in the mid lane. Wukong's moving to answer Strompest. Could be a messy fight if it does break out, as they are going to look for the plays. Rockets coming in, Dredgeline is there, but the cage is dropped, and Teesum stuck in between all of them. Leona dropped with the paranoia, and now the Jinx has gotten it sided, looking for more, but look at the counter fight coming in. Curtain call coming in. Strompest teleported into the fight, but another cage, another one lined up. The Cyclone comes through, and it's Bay State coming in for them. The counter engage is just too strong, and that's going to be an ace for Bay State.
And SLU burned so much on the front end of this fight. They burned every tool possible, just getting the engagement off, just getting the pick on the Swordblue. And with all of it's gone, you have no more dive threat, you have no more front-to-back team fighting except for the Jinx, and you don't defend your Jinx. You do not get enough space with the Jinx after all your tools are burnt that you aren't able to step out of a team fight. I didn't think this was going to end it, but it is going to end it. Bay State's just going to walk up with 2 minions underneath the mid-tower. There's no respawn timers. Bay State make the counterplay. Bay State, despite being down at the beginning of this game, will make for a 2-1 and take their quarterfinal spot.
Bay State has done it. They have found themselves a win at the vital moment. They are going on to LA Rebel. This squad has been working for this for an entire year, building this roster time and time again.
It feels like... Yeah, it feels like this is a situation where SLU has incredibly talented players. They understand, constructing this composition, how they had to attack early, and they started to lose some steam in the later stages. And an old iteration of Bay State, a Bay State from like the middle of the summer or from even into the early fall, wouldn't have been able to punish this, wouldn't have been able to put together their pieces fast enough, wouldn't have been able to put together how you could perform in a counterpunch type situation, how you could make responses to what SLU is doing properly. Again, I can't speak enough to the difference between what that version of Bejjj State looked like and what this modern version of Bejjj State looked like. A number of players having great performances, but ultimately just not giving up anything big for SLU to take and capitalize on. SLU had a hell of a run coming in as one of our voting teams to make it into top 16, to push Bejjj State into that best of 3 territory, going to a full 3 games. But man, Bejjj State clutch it out. They keep their heads cool. They don't give up enough for SLU to take over the game, and they themselves are the ones that walk out of this one victorious.
They indeed do, and that's the end of the series, but not the end of everything here. We have our desk waiting to get ourselves ready for a breakdown of the game. So, gents, go ahead and take it on away.
Oh boy, what an incredible, intense series going all the way to Game 3, but at the end of the day, it is Bejjj State taking the victory, which means one thing, guys. My predictions were correct. Bejjj State 2-1. All right, we got it. I won't do any bragging, but I will say SLU 2-1 for you guys. Solo, you were saying, behind the scenes, you wished that you trusted your man, Dragonminkim. We will have an interview with him right after this death segment, so you'll get to ask a question his way, throw him some props, but let's get into the actual game itself. We won't need to really talk too much about the draft. Let's get right into those replays, because just like every single game we've seen on the mainstream so far, it is back and forth, and the person who pulls out in the beginning of the game does not end up winning the game. Solo, I'm going to give it to you first, my man. There is a 12-minute team fight that I know you wanted to talk about. It was just so incredibly crazy.
All right, yeah, let's check it out. A lot of this game was bot lane doing these 3v3s that kind of led into both mid laners roaming, and for a while it was looking bad, mostly because the Jhin positioning just was very questionable, always being the first person to be taking hits. And I thought after they had a few of these where SLU was getting the lead, it was looking pretty tough just based off of the Jinx getting the 5-0 start, which is, the dream. And it was looking like she was going to take away from the game, especially after this triple kill. Looking pretty rough. I mean, anytime a Jinx is 5-0, it's looking like the game's going to be a fast loss. But the more I saw the red team comp, though, it really seemed like it had all the answers. I think the Wukong pick actually looked way better than I initially thought. It didn't help that Graves was kind of useless, as we'll see a little bit later. But yeah, what a crazy start to go 5-0 and not win.
Was definitely more powder than Jinx from Arcane there, and it was a little unfortunate because I really liked the adaptation from SLU to start to pressure the dragons more. I thought the Nocturne pick was kind of cool. Obviously, Sophist kind of inting maybe Swordblue not running in front of his AD carry, but after a replay like that, you're like, we're winning this. This game is over. But that's not what happened.
That is certainly not what happened, TJ, and I want you to walk us through this mid-game fight where Bejjj State really just cements the game in their favor.
Sure, so in this second replay here, we have a mid-game team fight. Unfortunately, for SLU, we see an engage into a weird choke. Veigar cage kind of goes crazy. Ahri's unable to really impact that much. We see the Graves, full tank or bruiser, just can't kill anybody. His build is fine, maybe. But the play doesn't make sense based on what we built here. If Graves were to build full damage, then that play actually looks pretty good. Flashing, get free backline access, probably one-shot somebody. But the play just doesn't work out with the way that they chose to play the game with that Graves build. And it just leaves me questioning, what was the Graves doing? I don't even mind the pick. It's just what was his purpose? Because he definitely didn't play to it at all.
It's tough. Yeah. It really is. Yeah, Solo, what are your thoughts?
I was gonna say that the Veigar there, especially with the cage able to zone off a lot. I think that it sucks they ended up kind of losing the whole lead off of that. But I think what they ended up trying to find out, or they should have realized, was that Ahri needed to really take another angle than the Nocturne if they really wanted to go for these fights onto the 5v5, just so that they have another level of penetration into the backline. Because otherwise, as you saw, especially with where they were in the choke, Jinx just cannot really do any damage, and it's not like Nocturne is going to take that long to kill, especially when it's compared to how long Leona and Volibear are going to be able to stall the Jinx. So They really needed to have Ahri kind of from a different side to kind of make the difference in terms of how much time the fight will go on.
Yeah, definitely makes sense. And, you know, keeping it with you, Solo, the last team fight of the game, it really didn't feel like the game was, like, over before this team fight. It was still relatively close, but kind of walk us through this last replay. What's happening here?
Yeah, I mean, at this point, I felt like Red Team's comp was looking really good. The fact that they were able to just throw up these cages and just target one person at a time. You know, a little bit of an overcommit right here into the Veigar, and Graves kind of not realizing that it does 0 damage. But this is when it started to look really good for Red Team's comp. Just the fact that there is no way to like get away after you fail your engage with the Jhin chasing you down, and with the Veigar Predator. Even in one of the plays we had Wukong doing a TP. It seems like they kind of have the counter engage to deal with the Nocturne, and then once you start losing the fight, they're able to chase you down in a variety of ways. Makes it very difficult for you to even live after the fact.
So we saw a potential Jinx pop off there, and they just weren't able to get it. They overcommitted, and then Bejjj State played incredibly well on the back end of it. You know, the Jhin ult was good, the Wukong flank was good, so congratulations to Bejjj State on that one.
Yeah, let's give a rare shout out to the coach too. I don't know who their coach is, or I don't know who runs their drafts, but yeah, all 3 drafts, very good for Bejjj State. I was impressed. All good drafts. You love to see it.
Yeah. Yeah, and given a shout out, they do have listed as their coach Drake, Paradox, and Hummel, so definitely a solid staff behind them, and we were praising their drafts on the desks. We thought that they made some good adaptations, but overall, what a close series. And the fact that we've gotten all of these close, tense series when it's an invitation to LA and top 8 on the line, I mean, as a player, Solo, what do you think that means in terms of these players playing in these tense moments? How do they feel?
It's definitely, especially when they got a lot going on, I think, very intense moments. I'm glad, even though my prediction ended up being wrong, I'm glad Bejjj State won, just because what a tragedy it would have been to lose game 2 and then not be able to go. So I was kind of rooting for them on the inside a little bit. But, it's tough. Those are high-pressure situations. And with the game it is now, I mean, it's really easy to have games flip. You make one team fight mistake, you lose Baron, and all of a sudden a game that seemed like it was in the bag is basically like, you're on the other side of the coin now. So it's a tense situation. You always got to scrap and fight, especially with that factoring in how easy it is to win or lose.
I think SLU's probably maybe kicking themselves a little bit for maybe some stuff left on the table, and so I'd like to see them come back stronger next year in whatever amateur split they play in. But also, I'd like to see Bejjj State clean it up a little bit for the round of 8 that's coming up in LA. I think that there was some improvement to go on there, so I'm excited to see if they pick it up and then become strong contenders for the series.
Love the thoughts from you guys. We will go to a short break before we have an interview with the winning jungler on the side of Bejjj State, Dragonminkim. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody, to the 2022 League of Legends College Championship. I am joined by none other than Bejjj State College's winning jungler, Dragonminkim. How are you feeling after that series? Another close 3-game series.
Thank you for congratulations, and I really appreciate everyone who supported our team. And I want to shout out to our teammates. Everyone played really well, and they were positive, and we were just enjoying the tournament. So,
awesome. Yeah, okay. So let's actually first start talking about your program as a whole. So tell me a little bit about, your experience playing with Bejjj State so far. I know you guys are a little bit of a newer team. How has it been with the guys? We've got Dragonmin coming back in real quick. Oh, we got you back. Okay, pick up where you left off.
so our team is like really international, because we have 2 Venezuela teammates, Latin Americans, and we have 2 South Koreans, and also we have 1 Philippine. And our team was in the beginning, we're not as good, as a team, because we're not speaking in English as a whole because our
Oh,
Spanish
yeah.
teammates are speaking in Spanish because it's their primary language, and our Korean teammates we're speaking in Koreans, so. And sometimes, like whenever we're doing the team fest, that's the only time we actually speak in English.
Yeah.
But yes, that's how our team is like working together. But then now it got so much better, and now our team is doing well in scrims and everything. So
That's great to hear. I mean, you can honestly tell because you guys have been doing really, really good in this tournament so far. How does it feel to make it to the top 8? You guys got your ticket to Los Angeles booked.
I mean, it feels pretty easy because we were not expecting to drop a one game, but we were just trolling and we didn't really care about the wave management. We were just hyped because we got the Dragon Soul and we wanted to Baron because Volibear didn't have our flash. But then our top, he got too hyped and he wanted to kill Ahri, who has our ultimate. So he chased Ahri and then we lost the team fight, and then that actually costed our game.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was unexpected, event, but overall, like we didn't expect to, lose versus this team. So
Yeah, I mean, honestly, you guys, I think it really did feel like it should have been a 2-0. You guys were ahead in that second game. One last question for you. You did have some really big priority on the Nocturne this series, and I thought you played really, really well on it. What sort of makes your team like that champion, and is it some synergy with the Vex? You guys played really well together, you and Seranok.
yes, so Seranok and I, we were trying to build our synergy, and we noticed that whenever Nocturne is ulting, it's hard for enemies to see Vex R. So we found out that we can actually abuse this for the tournament, and we wanted to show everyone that this is OP. You guys have to ban it, or you guys also try it.
Yeah.
So that's what we did. But the third game, enemy team, they banned the Vex and they draft Nocturne. And we were like, wait, Nocturne is gonna be the only one coming in here, And if we pick Veigar, which is good into Ahri, it's also gonna be good into Nocturne 2 and Nautilus, because they're gonna be like engaging in to us, but we can just kill them instead. So it was better for us,
Yeah,
because they
definitely
take the
makes
Nocturne away.
sense.
Yep.
Yeah, I thought you guys had a really good draft plan for that series, and it shows. You guys booked your ticket to LA, you won. Oh, it's got to feel good. I know you shouted out some people earlier on, but any final words, any final shout outs before we take it to a quick break?
I want to say I miss Niles, and I want to see him in the final.
Awesome.
I want to
shout
beat him.
out to Niles. Ooh, I like that. I like that. Fighting words from Dragonminkim. Thank you for joining me for the interview, man, and best of luck in the top 8 next month. I'll be watching you guys.
Thank you for the interview.
Of course. We're going to kick it to a short break before we're back for the pregame desk for our second series of the day. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back soon.